I do want to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Cox Cruey, Barb Martin, Melina Owens, and your leadership for the opportunity this afternoon to come over and talk to you about the great things that are going on at Turkeyfoot Middle School. I also want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our consultants, Gary McCormick, Missy Hicks, Jenny Barrett, Joe Chavez, Debbie Brown, and Cher Rowley Collins for their tremendous instructional support as we continue to lead the state and in some ways the country with curriculum instruction and assessment in the middle schools. A general thank you to the central office staff for the outstanding support they provide our school each day to keep them running smoothly and for keeping principals like me on the straight and narrow. It's not an easy job. I'd like to recognize the leadership and support of my site-based council and most important, the hard work of my faculty and staff. And finally, I'd like to thank my assistant and my new associate, thanks to the Board of Education, Principal Deb Obermeyer and Jerry Klein for being such good partners in the work of running a great middle school. There are many tremendous things going on inside the walls of our new school, and I think I'm going to call it new until the day I retire. So I'm excited to speak to you about these things. I know that the board is very familiar with the data from the school, so I'm not going to read it to you, but I would like to briefly touch on the data on page 1 and 2 of your packet. You can see an increase in enrollment from 2 years ago, from 851 to last year at 984, and to this year we're over 1,000 students. Folks are busting down the doors to get into our new school. You can see that attendance dropped a little bit from the previous year to last year, but it's surprising because last year, out of each month of the school year, all those months but one, we received the attendance award for the middle schools. But our goal is to get back over 96% for this year. As for the academic data,
how are you doing that?
How we're doing that?
How are you going to do that?
We're going to do that by looking at data. We're tracking our attendance data. We have an SAT group that meets each week. We do home visits. We talk to kids. Teachers are in tune with kids that are having attendance issues. So we're trying to be real intentional about that.
You have had home visits all along.
Yeah.
You're increasing them, or
we're also working out incentives for the kids that are there as well for attendance, and we're just trying to do a better job of tracking our data, and with the data that we're getting back from central office now, and the more we're able to manipulate that data, I think we're able to make it more individualized for kids. As for our academic data, we made our annual yearly progress in No Child Left Behind in the category of all students. And we have over 3/4 of all of our kids scoring at proficient or distinguished range. And these academic numbers have us near the top in the region with our proficient and distinguished. We're glad that we made most of our AYP goals, but we're not satisfied, because it means that 1/4 of our kids are not meeting their goals, especially those kids in the disability category where we have achievement gaps. We had a slight drop in our science scores of about 1.5 points. We saw significant gains in social studies and on-demand writing, and we also saw progress in our Explore assessments. On page 2, you can see our MAP data. I'll talk a little bit about this as we go, but I'm a big fan of MAP testing. I think the investment that the board has made in MAP is tremendous for looking at ongoing student growth throughout the school year, and I think that's the key, to be looking at that. In years past, we would look at just the CATS data, and we wouldn't get it back for 4 or 5 months, and we would try to use that data to design programs. And with our MAP assessment, it allows us to do it and get that data back in a short period of time. We want to make sure the MAP information has reinforced the need to focus on each individual student. We want to make sure that this year our percentages of students at or above grade level in MAP are progressing toward 100%. and I'll discuss intentional steps we're taking to make this happen. As I mentioned previously, our academic data has us among the top schools in the region. The reason for this is no surprise. We don't take time to rest on our accomplishments as a district or as a school. Over the next several pages of your board report packet, you'll see how we are using the 3 district goals to not only reduce achievement gaps, but increase achievement for all students. As I discuss this information, I'd like you to look at, I showed you the binder and the other sheets that I gave you, and I feel that these sheets really exemplify our county's goals. The binder highlights the work our students did recently when they were chosen to be reporters for the National Middle School Association during their annual conference in Louisville last month. You can see the quality and the quantity. This was done in 2 days. All that work in that binder was done in 2 days. The quantity and the quality of the writing, you'll be impressed to know that Kenton County schools were responsible for that. I'm speaking today about Turkeyfoot, but in some ways I'm speaking for one part of the middle school team, along with Melina Owens, Patrick Curran, Cheryl Jones, and Eric Moorwessel from the other middle schools. And even though we have a friendly competition with each other, we work hard to improve our individual schools by working together to improve all of our schools. Barb Martin calls this flying in a V, and we have prided ourselves on this, and all of our schools have benefited from it. I would like to highlight briefly how we're using the 3 goals of the district to improve academic achievement. When I think of goal 1 for the district, I think about what are the things that teachers are doing in the classroom with their students, and just to simplify it. And this is an area where more than any other, I feel like Kenton County is the leader. The work we're doing with the Gates Foundation in math and literacy, the work we're doing with Springboard curriculum, as well as the various partnerships we have in place, we're really improving the way teachers teach and students learn at my school, and I'm sure throughout the district. And I think it's great. I think the timing of this could not have been better. I think that with the change in the assessment system, the change to the new standards, there may be some schools and districts that are playing catch up with all the changes going on, but I don't feel like we're that way in Kenton County. Because of the investments in the training and consultation and the resources, we were prepared to hit the ground running and with the support in place throughout the school year. As you can see on pages 4, 5, and 6, we are committed to academic growth for all students through our RTI program. And I'm sure those are buzzwords that you're going to hear a lot over these 2 days. In the past, we've thought of RTI as something that was really just for students performing below grade level. And that's not really enough now, especially with the kind of data that we can get on all kids and with the changes in the assessment system now. It's important that we take a look at each individual student, regardless of whether they are 2 grade levels behind or above grade level, and say what do they need to improve. So it's about each individual student, and that's what we're working toward with our RTI plans, and I have that laid out in the board report. We have very effective Read 180 and System 44 classes along with remedial math classes. We have purchased wireless labs specifically for campus learning to address growth for all students, along with classes during homeroom time for basic skills. A big part of this has to do with the important investments the board has made, and I mentioned before with the MAP assessments, and the benefit of being able to get data in real time. And this data allows us to tweak and update and plug students into our RTI plan. When I think of Goal 2, I think of proof. When I look at Goal 2, I simplify Goal 2 by saying proof. You can have great trainings and teachers meetings and professional learning communities and buy a lot of resources, but if you are not seeing the benefits of these things making its way into the classroom, it's all a waste of time. On page 7 and 8 of your package, you can see how we're using our professional practice rubric as a tool to get the proof we need that we're getting the job done in the classroom. You can also see that we as principals, as I heard the previous administrators talk about, are committed to getting into classrooms every day with a purpose. We are using the PPR as the basis for formal and informal observations of teachers. Teachers are using it as the basis for individual growth plans. And, you know, the great thing about it is, you know, this is my 9th year as principal. It seems like just yesterday. And the great thing about it is it's also about principal growth. The more that we become familiar with the professional practice rubric and the more work that we do in our learning communities at central office with our CIA meetings and our principals meetings, the better we are at looking for those things in the classroom. And, you know, what I talk to my fellow assistant and associate about is that's the most important thing we can do, is get into those classrooms and give feedback. It's not just enough to be in a classroom. It's about being in the classroom. Even if you're only in there for a few minutes, you can see a lot, you can learn a lot about what's going on in the classroom. And being able to give feedback to teachers. And I think that giving that feedback to teachers, and the more we're learning about that as administrators, the better off we can help our school. With the, let's see, along these same lines, our central office leaders are side by side with us conducting PPR walks. I really appreciate this because I know how difficult it is. It must be to fit this into your schedule, but it shows how important it is, and the perspective they give us is invaluable. We also have continued to focus on our professional learning communities. This has been especially important with the help of our instructional consultants as we implement the new standards in Springboard and Gates and academic partnerships and things like that. Teachers need this support. Teaching is a very difficult job, but it is rewarding, and the support with the PLC really helps. I would be remiss if I talked about instructional improvement without emphasizing how important our new school is and will continue to be in increasing student achievement. I like to think that the increase in our enrollment over the years has to do with the great principal that we have. But I know it's because of the great things that are going on inside the school and the state-of-the-art school itself. A school that is used as a learning tool to improve instruction for our kids, from the math and science applications of green technology, as well as outstanding technology and technology training our staff have in all content areas. The last part of my presentation deals with Goal 3. When I think of Goal 3, I think about how many kids really feel like they are a part of Turkeyfoot, and that Turkeyfoot is really a part of them. You can see this information on pages 9, 10, and 11 of your report. I also handed out a green sheet that has a list of activities. I tell all of our parents and kids at the start of each school year and periodically throughout the year that I believe, as Dr. Cox-Cruy does, that all students will do a better job academically if they feel connected to their school beyond the classroom. We are working hard to ensure that all students are involved in activities, especially those students who find themselves in frequent discipline problems or have attendance issues, or who guidance and counselors feel are disconnected from the school. We survey students, and along with the data that now we're receiving from central office, it is much easier to intervene for kids in this area. And I'll talk a little bit about our PBIS in a minute. The pink sheet I gave you currently, or the gray sheet I gave you currently has 66 different items on it, with most recently being an aviation camp and a debate club, with our student council working to get student input on even more activities. Our teachers and staff are also working hard every day to build positive relationships with their students inside the classroom and out. This is evidenced by our positive behavior instructional support. That is on the gray sheet. That is the matrix. We've worked with our KCSD committee and our staff, and that is a TFMS matrix. It talks about expectations for kids in certain areas. And we also work this with incentives and, most importantly, building strong relationships. I especially want to mention my Youth Service Center Director, Stacy Russell. During tough economic times, these types of programs are essential to eliminate barriers for kids who are going through rough times. I've highlighted some of the many things this department is involved in, but I thought I would mention her especially as we approach the holidays, since our YSC is sometimes the glue that many kids and families have to our school. The last page of the packet talks about goals for next year. As you know, the goals for NCLB increase drastically each year. Our goal is to continue to reach or exceed our NCLB and Explore goals. As for NCLB, we especially want to significantly reduce our achievement gaps by looking at ongoing data and adjusting programs and interventions accordingly. Overall, the goal for this year is to be the highest performing school in the region and in the top 10 in the state by increasing achievement for all students. Reaching our goals won't be easy, but I believe with the students and staff we have, and I mean this, the cutting edge strategies and tools in place and the support that we have, I'm sure we can do it. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
You said it all, that last statement.
Right on time.
That's right.
Thank you.
Welcome to River Ridge Elementary. Shauna Harney, principal, Bev Johnson, and our newest member of that group, Drain Daly. Welcome. Glad to have you, Drain.
Thank you.
Shauna, go ahead.
I just want to start off by thanking each of you as our board members, not only as a principal, but as a parent in this district. I really appreciate all of the hard work that you all do for the kids in Kenton County.
Thank you.
And you already know our team here, Bev Johnson and Drain Daly. I know that you all have the scores, and I just want to start by saying that we were very pleased with our scores. However, we're still very hungry and driven to take that success to the next level. So I think through analyzing our test scores and finding out what led and contributed to some of that success, as well as the changes that we know are taking place in education this year, those two factors really helped create our CSIP. So jumping right into goal 1, MAP is huge for us. We love MAP. So we want to thank you for MAP again. But using MAP to differentiate is our big objective in goal 1. Very intentional with goal setting. We developed contracts for each of our students, and we really use that data to differentiate the contracts. Some parts of the contracts you will see are the same for some students with resources like Compass Learning or MAP websites, but the contract really is something that I have worked with our teachers, understanding that that's a contract between teacher and student. We delivered it at a MAP parent night, and that was another strategy, and that was great. We were able to bring our parents in and give an overview of MAP, and then they went back into the classrooms, and the teachers really went over the contracts in greater detail. And I was just, again, very mindful with the teachers of making sure they understood that that contract was between teacher and student, and we really can't control anything after they leave us at 3:30. So anything the parents did to support that was icing on the cake, but that contract is really what are we.
Did you do this before you took the first test in September?
We did it as after getting the data from the first test in the fall.
After the first test.
Mm-hmm. And another strategy with MAP is just really taking the job-embedded PD that our teachers, that we were learning from the district RTI meetings and sharing that with teachers. And our teachers are really realizing now more than ever that they need to lean on each other to meet the wide range that they have in their classrooms. So teachers are grouping students by RIT bands. You'll see that going on in some pockets in the core instruction and in some pockets in the RTI. And that's still a work in progress, but it's really where we were last year with differentiation and where we are this year, I think, is night and day. Going along with goal 1 and MAP, we put another structure in place to have an extra weekly computer lab time to give more opportunities for those students to work through Compass Learning, to work through the MAP websites. So allowing them an additional time to have that time with the computer was big, something our teachers really asked for. So we're very intentional about making sure that that time is really being used for what we set it aside for. Going along with goal 1, this is our 3rd year of having a common RTI block in our schedule for each grade level. So just really each year we have defined procedures for when to start a SAT for a child. Just making sure that everybody's on the same page with that, understanding what the interventions should look like, Our curriculum committee is really working on a little booklet for all teachers, whether they're new or experienced, to know if I have a child and they have this need, what's a program I can use. But also really focusing on our students who need challenging at that time, because we know it's about growing kid by kid, and so knowing which student to intervene with and when and how and what does that look like, as well as what can I be doing to challenge those students who need that challenging. As a leadership team, we are reviewing every other week the progress monitoring data for those students who are receiving interventions. So that's a great time for us to look at, are they making progress? Do we need to tweak the intervention? Do we need to change the frequency, the group size? Or do they just need to keep doing what they're doing because they're showing progress? That really helps get the information back to the teacher so that they can make a decision for the child sooner than the way we handled the process before. We also, of course, work with our Family Resource Center to identify any barriers that we need to involve our center with in helping students succeed. Heading into Goal 2, quality instruction. Really just collaborating. We know the standards are such a new part of the change this year, so continuing with our PLCs. We meet weekly with our teachers every Tuesday, and then our teachers are meeting in addition to that on their own. We were not doing that this time last year. We started it in January. I wasn't very popular then, but I think but right now I think we can all say that really that was a factor that led to our success, and our teachers really enjoy that time now, and they know they're walking away with information to help the students. So just continuing that. Again, it's a time where they're either breaking down the standards and making sure they all are on the same page with what that looks like, or we're taking back job-embedded PD that we've learned at a district training. Flashbacks is another objective, and I know that that's not anything new, but we really tried to change our approach with that this year with the standards, and knowing that the standards had to be taught to mastery. We are really making sure that everyone has a consistent, intentional approach to flashbacks, that it's not just a random 10 questions on a Friday, or not just a skill review, that it's very intentional and it goes back to those standards. Whether they got it right on a common assessment or whether they got it wrong, it still needs to be something we're spiraling back. So I feel like that is a lot tighter than what it's been. And then really using that data from those weekly flashbacks to either determine reteaching in core or a small group reteaching in RTI. So I really feel that that is something that is really meshing well with knowing that our standards are taught to mastery. And then also with Goal 2 is just to maintain fidelity with our existing instructional practices. Knowing that we do have a lot of new this year, we don't want to let the other policies or strategies that we have had in place for several years go to the wayside. So just being in classrooms on a regular basis and giving that feedback to teachers helps us monitor that those other practices that are not new but are still good and should still be in place. Something that we're going to start in January, I feel like we're ready for that now. I know some other schools were doing that last year. We were not ready for that, but having teachers participate in walks, we're going to start that in January, and I really feel like that will be another piece to take some of our teachers to the next level with an understanding of what some of these new practices look like and sound like. Just ongoing professional development. If someone has a need an accountable talk, we'll schedule a PD. So I feel like just having ongoing conversations with our teachers helps us to realize what PD is needed, and we throw PDs together quite often. Our faculty meetings have really turned into a monthly PD. We kind of reached a point where we didn't know what to do with the faculty meetings anymore because the grade level meetings really changed that. So that's a monthly PD that we can count on for sure. Our PPR walks, like I said, we have a goal as an administrative team, and we meet weekly on Wednesdays, and we share where we've been and ahas, common observations that we're seeing then sometimes lead to future PLCs or future PDs. Heading into Goal 3, Obviously, we're always trying to offer more programs for our students. This year, we took a little bit of a different spin with that. We tried to offer programs to students during the day because so often our students that we weren't reaching, we knew transportation was a barrier. So we've started, for some grade levels, we've started 5th grade jobs. They can be safety patrol in the hallway, nurse helper, library helper. Just there's a whole list of things that they're helping with, and that we know is not something after school, but it's giving them that meaningful connection beyond the classroom, and it is working out wonderfully. They're really taking ownership of that, and so that's been a success for us. We're starting a student council for the first time, and our students, I'm actually meeting with our student council tomorrow, and they're wanting my input on a service project to start for our school. So we've really obviously only implemented new things during the school day. Our extracurriculars outside of the school day, we didn't add anything new this year, but we still feel like we're reaching a lot of kids with what we've already had in place. And then if we want to talk about our positive behavior support program, we are a KCSD school. And I truly feel like this year, with all of the instruction that we talk about and that we're trying to focus on, I feel like having this as our core and our foundation, if we don't have this in place, then we're losing time to get that instruction in that we want. And I feel like we are really at a good place with this. We've really focused on intentional teaching of what does that look like, sound like. Sometimes I think we take for granted that everybody just knows how to walk down the hall or everybody knows how to do this. And in such a large school, we really are striving for intentionally teaching that, knowing when reteaching times need to occur, and just making sure that we're holding everybody to the same expectation, celebrating when we are when we're able to celebrate those positive rewards. But I feel like this really has helped create that instructional time to be stronger. We're seeing less students in the office for discipline referrals. We're seeing less referrals from our bus. That was a big focus for us, pulling our bus drivers in, just building that relationship with that group. So lots of visuals around the building, knowing where to stop, knowing what our expectations are. We felt like we got good data from our KCSD walkthrough that we had recently. So we really know that this is important to lead to that quality instructional time that we're looking for each day. And I think I talked faster today than I ever have.
You can take a breath now.
Yeah.
You've done a good job.
You did a good job. What's your population today?
Enrollment,
Yeah,
we are about 1075.
1075. I see last year though you finished at 1114. You
Yes.
finished at that. I know you're the largest
How do your
one.
numbers compare like with last year's discipline?
Night and day. Yeah, it's
Can
less.
you say a little more on it? What do you-
I don't know. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. I mean, we look at it monthly, so I don't have like an overall
When you
number
say
from the
night and
year.
day, I mean, you're,
In half.
sounds extreme. What, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Probably
Yes.
more than half.
At least those
least.
numbers are cut in half.
What still seems to be your major?
The largest one was very reduced.
Bust, yeah, even though that's in half, but some of those times during the day when they're not in as of a structured environment with a classroom teacher. So,
You know, something we never asked, but I never had. How many of your children take the bus?
we do have quite a few car riders. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but obviously, the majority of our students are bus riders.
80%.
Yes.
And Bev, Doreen, you want to say anything? You guys got anything to add or any questions or whatever? You know, we like
In
hearing from you
regards
all
to
too.
the positive behavior,
Uh-huh.
one thing I saw just today, and I don't think we would have seen this last year, is one of our teachers was bringing, one of her primary teachers, she was bringing her class down, and someone stopped her in front of the office door, and the kids went right on and stopped at the stop sign, and you
Where they
didn't
were
hear a
supposed to
peep
stop.
out of them. Because, see, what we do is we give them compliments. And so the kids want these compliments, and they have a 100-point compliment chart. And then their teachers just reward them in some small way. But I mean to tell you, they did not get out of line, they did not turn around, and so I complimented them. And it's really cute because what you'll see them do is they'll go, yes, because they know that that goes on their chart.
That's right.
So it has made a huge difference.
Right, that's right.
And I want to give kudos to our news team, because that is really up and running and doing wonderful things, and that's a great place for our students to share with other students what's going on in the building and what we're doing. That's really, and I think that's also where we're getting our expectations out there. The kids hear that, and Ms. Harney or myself will share different things on the news. I think that's been a big plus, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, you enjoying your time there now?
Absolutely.
You'll learn from the best there. You know
Yes,
that, don't you?
I will. And I am.
Well, we thank you. Thank you for moving up in your time and things. It's time for the bells to start ringing here anytime, Shauna. And we know you do great work. And thank you.
Thank you.
We love seeing you.
All right, thank you.
Welcome to Summit View Middle School. Mr. Patrick Kern and Casey Ratliff. Glad to have you guys today. You all okay today?
Thanks for having us. Yes, we're doing great.
Yes, good. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to start off with some good news. Casey and I this morning ran some numbers, and these are preliminary for our new MAPS assessment, the new scores. We're still doing some makeups today and tomorrow, but we went up 2 to 4 points in every area, 6th, 7th, math and reading, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we were happy about that. And that's the average. Those could change, give or take a few points, but I just felt that you guys needed to know that. We were excited about it.
And our incentives.
Oh, yeah. And that's part of our meeting goal 1 is we really focus on our teachers working with us and our counselors to goal set with our students on MAP. We had some incentives for our students. We had some incentives school-wide, and for our students, teachers had them at the classroom level as well. And the part I'm loving is we've got kids walking around our building talking to adults about their MAP score. Right. And it's not solicited from us. They're saying, hey, I went up 2 points in MAP, or, I'm disappointed I went down a point. But they're doing it unsolicited, and I think that's a wonderful thing. One thing we're trying to talk about as a staff is we have very good MAP scores traditionally. One thing we're trying to work on as a staff is come up with answers of how to get those MAP scores to translate into the spring testing. Those are conversations we've started at this point, because we're finding that our students should be performing better on spring based upon those MAP scores that we're seeing. And our conversations with our teachers are, how can we make that happen? And I think going forward, starting after we get back from the new year, I think Casey and I have talked about as an administrative team meeting with our students who are novice and apprentice on last year's test and start having conversations with them personally of why they're doing what they're doing. And why, go ahead.
I was just hoping to motivate them, because a lot of the conversation that we have with the teachers and the staff is, how do we motivate them, because these kids know the material, but they're not applying it to the test. So that's our goal.
We also, our MAP scores tend to be going up incrementally regularly. And I think one thing that I can attest that to last year is, I think the Gates model being in the math classes last year has helped push those math scores up, and I'm hoping to see the same kind of situation in our language arts classes and the other science and social studies classes. And that's something, as an administrative team, we're pushing to our teachers to go more toward that model, because it's just good teaching, whether it's math, language arts. One of our better teachers with this type of teaching is in a social studies classroom. He's dynamic, he's got student engagement, and that's an area that we're pushing in our school. One area we're having with some of the gaps some of our students are having, we have a fairly high level of free and reduced and students at risk. And we're finding that we've got students who need to stay with us, but because of circumstances at home do not have the ability to do that. So Casey and I have talked about with our counselors and our teachers of putting together 1 day a week where we supply bus transportation, 2 buses, to get all those kids to stay 1 day after school to build some of those skills and work on some of those gap areas based upon our RTI plan, our RTI plan that we're using during the day, we'd like to do that in the afternoon to work on some of those gap areas. Because it's not happening the other way. Kids need to be in our building to get that, and we have to supply what it takes to get them there.
Our other gap area is the disability group, and we've taken and purchased monitors in the cafeteria. We were using our instructional assistants for about 25 minutes a day, and so we're hiring 2 lunch monitors, and that'll allow our instructional assistants to be full-time in the classroom without that 30-minute out of the classroom. So that'll help our groups with disability.
And we have come up with an RTI plan building-wide in which we've taken the 7 strands of MAP and divided them up into increments of 3.5 to 4 weeks, where our teachers are taking their kids and finding them at that RIT band for that content and breaking them up to group them in areas where they can give the most help to those kids. So kids in like RIT bands in that particular area will be working on that skill. So a kid in that group that needs additional help may be in the higher group next time because it's based upon those specific strands of MAP. We're using Compass Learning. The problem we will have in the middle school is getting labs regularly for our kids to get regular whole class instruction on Compass Learning or individual instruction on Compass Learning in a lab. Our teachers are doing a lot of whole class instruction based upon the RIT band of the kids that they have in the classroom. And I'm finding that the teachers are really taking to it. I'm finding the teachers, we've got teachers in chorus, teachers in band, teachers in social studies and science, teaching reading, teaching math, and it's almost, to me it's exciting because it's almost like the teacher is ingraining themselves in that class. Hey, let's learn this together. Let's work through this together as a class, and it's giving some of that ownership to the kids, and the kids are seeing, I'm not the only one that has this same struggle. We have met with our staff to look at our MAP data. We've designed a data room, which we will be utilizing again in January when we get the new scores, and we're going to have our teachers take the kids that they have, and if they went up in language arts, they moved to this part of the grid. If they went down, they went to this part, and then we start having conversations. Why did they go up here and not here? Or why did this kid go up 20 points and this kid did not? We're starting to have those conversations with our teachers, and we're having it as a grade level and as a team at a team level with our teachers, so they can start figuring out, is this kid, what's wrong with this student? Why are they not going where they need to go in MAP? Is it a motivation thing? Is it a skills-based thing?
And then comparing that to the grades in the classroom. And are they passing for the year? Are they not passing for the year? And looking at the individual students who may be failing a course or several courses.
And after the first of the year, we're going to start looking at our Explore data as a staff and looking at the new simulation or the simulation data for our school to find out, again, what we can do with Explore and MAP to make sure those scores continue to rise. And I think we're going to focus with our Explore scores with our 6th and 7th grade teachers on how they can build the skills with their kids to get them ready for the 8th grade, and have our 8th grade teachers talk to our 8th grade students and say, why did you not do this question well? So they can take that back to our teachers who have those 6th and 7th graders and work together to find out, okay, this student didn't do well, or these students didn't do well in this question. Have the 6th and 7th grade teachers have that information as they move forward to prepare for Explore. Goal 2, the big thing we're trying to do and we're monitoring in the classroom is making sure that we're, as I stated earlier, moving all our teachers towards the Gates model of teaching, and we're having those conversations with them and giving them advice on, you did this, why don't you try it this way? Or, why did you do this way? This could have been better addressed going in this direction. And our teachers are receptive to that at this point, and I'm finding small changes occurring in the classroom, and as those small changes occur, the buy-in from the teachers, they will start to see that, hey, this is a good way of doing of having instruction in my classroom, and it puts a lot of the learning onto the student and not just the teacher feeding the information to the students.
And some of the learning strategies or the instructional strategies are coming from the Springboard books that are just really good instructional, and trying to take that over to science and social studies and our STEM classes and those kinds of things, which is very helpful.
Right, and the whole purpose of us of implementing the STEM class was we were finding that a lot of our kids could do really well on the multiple choice parts of the KCCT. They couldn't interpret or analyze the information. In the STEM class, it's built around analyzing information, how to read data, how to read graphs, how to analyze situations and solve problems, which we think will carry over to all our classes. We are regularly monitoring Read 180 data, System 44 data, and when we see the information from SAM and from Dashboard, the conversation starts with that teacher. Why are your minutes down this week? Why are you getting a huge growth in this area and not in this area? So that conversation, we're starting to see some improvements. We're seeing large jumps with our students in those areas. We're having some students whose SRIs are going up at large numbers because they're starting to feel that sense of success, and our teachers are more direct with the instruction that they're giving the students in that area. Goal 3, did I miss anything? Goal 3, one thing I'll tell you is the problem we have with Goal 3 is the same problem we had with the ESS situation. We have a lot of students who want to be involved, but for mom or dad to come and get them and pick them up is a difficult situation. So we're trying to address that in any way we can, and currently our Family Resource Center's putting out a survey and asking students 2 simple questions. If you could be involved, what is your interest in things that you'd like to do with this building, and what is keeping you from being involved? That way, we don't want to put a plan together without that information and find out that plan doesn't address our problem. So we think getting that information back will allow us to address the situation possibly the way we did the ESS situation. We are also in our first year of implementing KCSD, PBS, and we've got a very good team together who's implemented and designed a lot of strong programs and procedures for our staff. We've developed what we call JAG swag, and swag is based upon safety, good work ethic, good attitude, and giving respect to each other. We think a lot of the issues we have in our building, kid to kid, is based upon lack of respect or not knowing how to give and receive respect. We're doing a massive rollout for that with our students the day we return from school with a school-wide assembly. We are meeting with our staff on Wednesday to roll it out to our staff and give them the procedures that we have going forward and the incentives that we're going to develop for that. We currently have put in place procedures for our hallway, procedures for our cafeteria, and procedures for our restroom. And based upon information we've been looking at the past week, we're seeing some improvements in those areas. Our students are more orderly, they're quiet, and they're more direct in what they're doing. They're more focused on getting where they need to be when they need to be there.
And this has all come about because of the amount of discipline referrals that have occurred in the cafeteria and the ones that have occurred in the hallway. Now we need to move to the buses.
Yeah, and that's our next step. We wanted to make sure we master the areas we have in our building and then pull in the bus situation as we start working through our process. But I think we're moving in the right direction in those areas, and I'm very proud of our students for taking the incentive that they had to self-motivate themselves to do better on their MAP assessment. And I think our teachers are very excited about that because it's hard. It's a culture change sometimes when you have to change that way of thinking. And our teachers really worked hard with our kids, and our kids have really taken the ownership of that. And I think we're also seeing the same kind of situation with the KCSD procedures. Our students, I'm starting to hear conversations with our students, hey, don't you know you're supposed to be quiet in the hall? Or I'm starting to hear that peer correction occurring, which is very natural, and a lot of times it's just a reminder for the other kids. Did I miss anything else? Do you guys have any questions for me? I probably spoke fast.
Would you address parent involvement? I didn't hear that mentioned, How involved are your parents? Especially in that group that you have a problem with the bus?
We need to improve parent involvement, and I'll be the first to tell you that. We're looking at a couple things to try to get some of our parents in there. We're looking, the January 9th, they have a MAP and ILP night with our parents. We're also looking at presentations we can present to students and to parents to make that connection. The students get it during the day, especially around things like cyberbullying, situations we're seeing a lot of occurring in our building. We're just trying to get parents in our building as often as we can, and we're trying to find ways to get them in our building on their terms, where they don't feel like they have to come in and it's because their child's in trouble or because their child's not doing well. We want them to be there because they want to be there. But we're going to find the same situations with the parents that we have with the students. Transportation, time, their schedules is very different and many times from our schedules. So we're trying to find that information so that we can learn to address the situation to make that easier for them.
We've found that if we had more, like individual questions, can you do this one thing for me, then the parents are much more involved versus sending out a blanket, anything you can do to help. So we have addressed it that way.
Said that they had a parents' night for MAP, so you might check with them.
And some of you also had one, some of you
They had it after
elementary.
their first testing, and,
I think the parents have to accept ownership, or else the children are gonna give you all kinds of reasons why they can't get involved in those other activities.
And we have a lot of students who want to be involved.
Right.
It's getting the people that can get them there to believe that as well.
What's your enrollment today?
804, right around 804. It varies day to day, but 804 to 810.
Still up, 746 there, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you very, very much.
I thank you for having us.
Good work, and good to see you.
Well, thank you for having us, and we really appreciate it. And you're welcome, some of you, anytime you'd like to come out.